afternoon. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum. For the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world. Of course, we'll look at the market watch, stocks we're paying attention to, local, national stories you need to know. We've got an update on a couple stories as well. So buckle up, folks. It's a Thursday edition. Let's get right into it with the market watch. And some positivity today across the market, which is always an unknown here, especially the last couple days out there as well. And right now, Dow Jones is up 381 points to 45,595. S&P 500's up 34 points to 6484. Nasdaq's up 103 points to 21,601. The Russell 2K, well, it's up 17 points right now to 2370. And then Bitcoin, look at this, folks, down under the 110,000 range, 109,909 right now for the Bitcoin here today. So that was in the 112,000 yesterday, dropping back down to under 110,000. Basically, today the problem's going to be everybody's looking forward to Friday's job report. That would be the government numbers tomorrow. We did get the private sector job report here today. We'll talk about that here in just a minute because the ADP had weak hiring data. So we've had 2 weak reports here surviving around the job force side of things. And now the market's going to wait for Friday's job report. And it's kind of where we're going to be today, kind of in this stalemate as we go through this. Couple hours left here until the end of the trading day. Stocks we're paying attention to right now. Well, the first one, PayPal, is the one we're going to look at. They do payments, stuff like that. Buy now, pay later, payment side of it. Transfer money back and forth between your friends. You know what PayPal is. Down 2% here today. Well, their CFO, Jamie Miller, said the company still has, quote, and this is their quote, have a lot more work to do. And they said that in order to achieve profitable growth specifically. She went on to add that she's encouraged by a lot of different elements by what they're seeing. So market not liking this a little too much, that they're still struggling for that profitable growth and still self-admitting they have plenty of work to do to get to that level. PayPal down 2% here today based off of that news. Now let's go some retail side of things. The Gap. We're going to look at a Gap competitor later on here in the show as well, but right now the Gap is up about 4.43% right now. They announced it's expanding into the beauty area of the sector of retail, starting with his Old Navy brand is where they're going to start rolling it out at. So this obviously marks a strategic shift for Gap specifically. It's entering the most resilient segments of retail in recent years, and right, Ulta has had some success with their numbers lately. The whole beauty brand has been up here in this market. Some of the higher end ones have suffered a little bit based off of, the spending and consumer worries out there. But Gap getting into that, well, their stock's up 4.34% based off of that news. And again, later on in the show, we'll look at American Eagle coming up here. And then finally, Texas Instruments. The last stock we're going to look into now, yeah, they're famous for their calculators, right? Their TI-84 and stuff. But they're an actual chip maker. This one caught my eye because they're down 3.88% right now. They were down over 5% earlier today. Their finance chief came out and told a conference yesterday that demand for their chips has actually cooled since President Donald Trump's tariffs announcement in April. So demand is what they're blaming on for their issues there. Texas Instrument, with that being announced, 3.89% down here today. So we know NVIDIA's demand is not down, but other chip makers, AMD, those types of chip makers are up for the artificial intelligence side of things. But I'm just wondering, is this a Texas Instrument issue or is this an overall chip maker issue? That's something to pay attention to moving forward. Later on when we come back, we're going to look at that American Eagle. Figma, that design software company, and then we'll look at Toyota and Honda Motor as well. They're in the news. are kind of around a tariff situation for them. So we'll take a look at them later on when we look at the stocks here when we come on back and do our market watch for the last time here today on this Thursday. But first, we finally got that ADP report out this morning. These are the private payrolls numbers, and they actually increased by just 54,000 in August. ADP puts this out today. Tomorrow, we're going to have the non-farm government payrolls coming out. So 54,000 growth. Well, that's below the consensus forecast. That was at 75,000 that economist was expecting. It's a significant slowdown, as we talked about yesterday as well with that jobs report here as well. So significant slowdown from the revised gain of 106,000 seen the prior month. These numbers are falling quickly and kind of leaning towards the Fed doing at least a quarter point price cut here coming up in this month, or might even be a half a point to kind of stimulate that job growth again. Jobs, if you want to look at individual industries, by the way, jobs tried to trade, transportation, and utilities. Well, they saw big weakness in August. They lost 17,000 roles on net between with those three areas as well. This is all according to ADP. Education, health services were right behind that. They had a decline of 12,000 jobs. Healthcare services and education, especially here in August, tick up usually because teachers go back to school. Healthcare has been pretty good for several months now as well. So big decline here of them for 12,000 jobs. Those losses were offset. There was a big uptick here in leisure hospitality industry. There's 50,000 jobs added for private companies in the month, just in those segments there. Wage growth, for those of you that stayed in your job there, wage growth, same pace as August. So you saw your pay rise 4.4% year over year in August. Job changes, you actually had a 7.1% increase over that same year over year period. So always change jobs, you generally get a bigger pay raise than you do if you stay in your position. And as I said, those numbers are out. Another, I'm going to say, quote unquote, bad jobs report. I mean, could have been a lot worse, but not what people were expecting. So tomorrow is job worth, the non-farms payroll report from the government is what everybody is watching for tomorrow. It's going to be disappointing as well. I'm willing to bet you out there. And like I said, it's all a precedent into inflation's, stagflation's out there. At least sticky inflation is out there. Now jobs starting to be shed by companies with all of this going on. Well, it looks like a rate cut is definitely in line. Now the question kind of becomes a quarter point, half a point coming up. Usually they just do a quarter. I would expect a quarter still, but tomorrow's numbers might change that a little bit. And here's an update for you on the EU tariff situation between the EU, European Union, and the U.S. Well, the head of the European Parliament's Trade Committee, well, he came out Wednesday and said he has doubts about aspects of the EU's trade deal with the Trump administration. He actually came out and said that the deal will probably or could be amended during this process to get it passed there by the European Union. The head of the European Parliament's Trade Committee, he didn't quite go as far as to say, that he was outright opposing the agreement. This is that agreement that was struck back in end of July between the head of the European Commission and, of course, President Trump. That deal, if you don't remember, it imposes that 15% tariff on European goods and lowering EU tariffs on U.S. cars and industrial goods to zero in the EU side. Some EU goods, including aircraft, cork, and generic pharmaceuticals, they were exempted from that 15% rate. That was a deal that they struck then. Kind of a mixed reaction in Europe based off of this deal. I know the president there of the EU is taking a lot of heat for it as well. But the head of the trade concession, they're saying this deal needs to be amended if it's going to pass. Coming up and having doubts on that. So something to keep an eye on. And I'm sure they're also very intently watching this court case on tariffs, if they're legal or not, as it goes up to the Supreme Court. Be interesting to see who's kind of dragging their feet a little bit, waiting for that announcement coming up. And then No tax for tip was a huge campaign promise there by President Trump. Well, we know it's passed in that big, beautiful bill and everything. Well, we now have the Treasury Department unveiling its list of jobs that will be covered by that no tax on tips policy under that big, beautiful bill that passed the Congress as well. It's a lot of them in a bunch of different industries as well. So if you don't remember, the law created a deduction of up to $25,000 for qualified tips received by tip workers. So it'll be in place from 2025 all the way until 2028. There's make no bones about it. That's just during President Trump's term, right? Unless Congress, of course, acts to extend it at that time. It'll depend who the president is. As part of the process, the Treasury Department was required to develop a list of eligible occupations who were customarily compensated with tipped income prior to the actual enactment of the big, beautiful bill. So, like, your boss cannot now come to you and say, well, you're getting paid by tips now. If you weren't already before, right? You wouldn't be covered by this. So it's no shocker there. Food and beverage service is a big category here, right? Bartenders, wait staff, dishwashers, even food servers at non-restaurants, those things like hotels, residential care facilities, they're all exempt up to that $25,000. Dining room, cafeteria, bartender attendants, and helpers, if you get tips, you're also covered there. Chefs, cooks, bakers, food preparation workers, and even host staffs at restaurants, lounges, and coffee shops are exempt from the taxes, from the tips on taxes, up to that $25,000. We know that area was going to be there, but it goes into a bunch of other areas, like entertainment and events, for instance. They have a category for this: dancers, musicians, singers, disc jockeys outside of radio who work at clubs, parties, and other events. Entertainers and performers, so this would be comedians, street performers, for instance. Digital content creators, that would be your streamers, podcasters. I'm going to start accepting tips, folks. Social media influencers, all exempt from tips up to that $25,000. Ushers, lobby attendants, ticket takers. Locker room, coat room, dressing room attendants. Yes, your tips are also free there. This is where it gets kind of interesting. Gambling dealers, cage workers, change persons, and booth cashiers. If you tip them, they will be tax-free as well. Gambling and sportsbook writers and runners, when you tip them on your winnings, well, they'll be exempt also. So don't be afraid to tip those guys here as the NFL season's getting underway. It also moves into hospitality and guest services category, right? These would be your baggage porters, bellhops, concierges, for instance, hotel, motel, resort desk clerks, maids, and housekeeping cleaners are also falling under that exemptions. It even goes into home services side of things, right? Home maintenance repair, your handyman services, cleaning workers. So if you have a cleaner out there, their tips would be exempt at this point. Any landscaping tips you pay, groundskeeping workers, also tax-free on the tips. Electricians, plumbers, heaters, air conditioning mechanics and installers, locksmiths. They get you, out of your car or into your car in this heat a little bit quicker. Tip them. They get tax-free for that as well. Roadside assistant workers included in that area. Personal services, for you rich people out there. Personal care workers, these would be like those personal care aides as our parents are getting older. They can be tipped there up to $25,000. House sitters as well, free for their tips. Private event planners, private event portrait photographers, videographers, event officiants in weddings and funerals would be tax exempt. Anybody that's taking care of your pet, caretakers, tutors, nannies, and babysitters all fall under this exemption there up to that $25,000. So basically these are the big areas, right? But personal appearance and wellness, yes, your skincare specialists, massage therapists, barbers, hairdressers, anybody in that field, cosmetologists, shampooers, all exempt as well. Manicurists, pedicurists, makeup artists, and eyebrow threading and waxing technicians get to keep their tips as well, right? No difference here with tattoo parlors, piercers, tattoo artists, I should say, and piercers, exercise trainers, group fitness instructors, tailors, and that includes shoe, leather workers, and repairers. If you tip them, they get to be free tax out there. Then you get into the recreation and instruction side of things, right? I know it's a big list, but it's Just keep it in mind because I've actually heard people say they're not going to tip people. They're just going to have to declare it out there. Well, these are the categories that they don't have to. Up to 25,000 golf caddies, self enrichment teachers. So this would be art, dance instructors, right? Recreational tour pilots, tour guides and escorts, travel guides, and even sports and recreation instructors. So this would be things like soccer coaches, etc., tennis teachers, and those categories also free to go from there. When you go to restaurants, if you go to those high end ones, right? Parking, valet attendants, taxi, rideshare drivers, also free. So you get your Uber or Lyft, you're good to go. Your shuttle drivers, goods, if you get goods delivered to you, a DoorDash, for instance, free as well. Personal vehicle equipment cleaners, charter bus drivers, water taxi operators, rickshaw, pedicab, carriage drivers. So when you park and get one of those rides to where you're going. And also your home movers, if you're moving anytime soon, they're covered as well. So I know that was a long list, but I wanted to get those out to you because, like I said, I've actually had some people tell me, well, I'm not going to tip them. It should be in the price now if they're going to get charged tax on it, etc. No, they're all covered up to $25,000. Still take care of your people, folks, right, on that side. We know we talk a lot about companies planning to invest a lot of money in manufacturing here in the U.S. and moving stuff here. Hitachi is the next big company doing so. They're planning to invest $1 billion to expand its U.S. power grid infrastructure manufacturing. Whew, that's a big demand there. And they came out and said this yesterday. Obviously, the U.S. faces record electricity demand from those AI data centers that are going up here. Hitachi's announcement follows that big push by the Trump administration. They want to dramatically increase electricity supply for the artificial intelligence, the data centers, etc. Data centers are being put up all over the world, no doubt about it. This is shocking here. The U.S. holds the biggest concentration in the world of those data centers. They're expected to triple their energy use. These data centers to consume about 12% of the domestic power supply in less than 3 years. So many utilities, as we know here, are ramping up spending on their electrical grid to get ready for that. Nearly half of Hitachi Energy's latest investment, about $450 million, they'll go towards building a new facility over in Virginia. That's going to manufacture large transformers. Large power transformers, if I say it properly. Interesting enough, since COVID, transformers have been an issue to get. So if one blows out, it's hard to replace it and expensive to replace it. And building new ones, it's been difficult. So they're building those up there in Virginia as well. So, by the way, those massive ones that they build there, well, they can go as high as a 2-story home. That's how big we're talking about there. So construction of that specific project for those transformers set to begin this year. Service to begin by 2028 coming up for them. We go from that company expanding into the United States with Hitachi. Well, now let's talk about ConocoPhillips, that oil giant. Well, they're going to lay off up to a quarter of its workforce here. So thousands of jobs, and it's part of the broader efforts. Of course, they want to cut costs, even as oil is, priced at what it's at. So ConocoPhillips confirmed the layoffs yesterday, noting that 20 to 25% of the company's employees and contractors would be impacted worldwide. ConocoPhillips currently has a global headcount of about 13,000. So that basically means that the cuts would impact between 2,600 and 3,200 workers. If you do math, it comes out to that range. And interesting enough, right, I looked at ConocoPhillips' stock price as a macro thing, meaning where's it at for 2025? It's actually down about 14% from a year ago. And they're down yesterday with this announcement about 4% yesterday, 4.5% yesterday. So 14% for the whole year, but more layoffs coming for them. And this is an interesting thing here, right? With the economy the way it is, people kind of just watching where their dollar goes. How do we stretch our dollar a little bit more? And we can look directly at Dollar Tree, Dollar General, and those couple stores and how they're doing in this economy. Some interesting facts here, right? Sales at both of those companies grew in the most recent quarter. These increases powered by, shocker here, higher income shoppers. Higher income shoppers are shifting their spending to those lower cost companies. Dollar Tree said customers with a salary of more than $100,000 made up 2/3 of its new customers in the second quarter. That's up from 50% in the first quarter as well, folks. Same store sales grew 6.5% at the retailer during that quarter. Strength in electronics, hardware, lawn and garden, food actually led the same increase. Dollar Tree also expanded its multi-price strategy with price points. So they have price points like $1.35, $3, $5, like for home decor items, etc. Dollar Tree stock, is not done well this year, even with this news. It's been up and down, but it actually fell 8%. Follow their announcement of their second quarter earnings. But it is up if you look at the macro of it there, 35% here in 2025. Dollar General shares, well, they're up 45% this year for that specific company. Well, their Dollar General's same store sales increased 2.8% in the second quarter. So they had increases in both foot traffic and average basket size. They had same strengths, right? Food, seasonal, home, and apparel categories were their strengths for them. So higher income earners now going into the Dollar General, Dollar Tree to make that dollar stretch a little bit more out there. We saw this story at the end of last year with Walmart getting a lot of affluent customers as well. Kind of tells you where our economy is as this continues to trickle down into these discount retailers out there. And heads up here, if you're of the age where you're getting your Social Security, maybe your parents are as well, a big change is coming here. It's officially coming now. There are a couple exceptions. We talked about this before where they said they were going to do this, then they walked it back a little bit, but the Social Security Administration is going to stop issuing those paper checks at the end of this month of September 30th as well. It's going to affect hundreds of thousands of beneficiaries across the United States. So, this obviously is happening. It's months after President Trump issued the executive order back in March, mandating that all federal payments be made electronically beginning September 30th. So obviously direct deposit, paid to credit cards, etc. Paper-based payments, they're more costly, right? You have to get paper, you have to printer ink, etc. And they also say it's vulnerable to fraud, theft, errors, delays, and that as well. Absolutely, put it in the mail. Who knows what happens to it? So if you look at the numbers here, as of this month, as of September, more than 68 million Americans across all 50 states and territories receive Social Security benefits. Of those 68 million, around 390,000 people, that's about 0.6%, by the way, are receiving check payments. And this is all according to data that the SSA did put out yesterday. So it's a small number in comparison to, of course, the bigger number of 68 million people receiving them. So this might affect your parents, your grandparents, etc. You, maybe. Hopefully not. Hopefully you're not that old, right? Exceptions will be made, by the way. Emergency situations. If you don't have access to any digital payment systems or banks, they will make exceptions for you. But they are contacting people to push them. So if somebody does contact your parents or grandparents or even you saying they want to talk to you about it from the SSA, they are reaching out to people receiving the paper checks right now, telling them how the changes are coming, how to get set up for the electronic payments and things like that. So I'm not saying it's not fraud. I'm saying they are reaching out about it. So be vigilant and pay attention to that coming up as well. And then big news here if you're an Insta fan, right? It's been fought for years by Meta and Facebook and everything. Well, it's now officially here for Apple tablets. Yes, folks. Meta came out yesterday and released a dedicated Instagram app for the iPad. They just did WhatsApp earlier this year. It's obviously been requested multiple times. It's been long awaited for. Well, I'm talking specifically about the iPad here. It's now available for download in the App Store. It does take full advantage of the large screen. Makes it a little bit easier to see and everything than on your phone. So when you open the iPad app, you'll go straight to Reels without having to navigate to a separate tab. Comments, well, they'll be easier to view while watching Reels as well. See all the snarkiness right in your face immediately. Instagram is launching a dedicated following tab, which lets you choose which content you want to view. Specifically, you can do it from friends, all the accounts you follow, or just the latest, most recent posts first, so you can kind of tabulate that into what you want to see out there. They fought it for a long time. They said they didn't. They said it wasn't what the customers wanted. That's what Instagram said. They said, but then they also admitted yesterday that it's one of the most requested things that people had wanted for a bunch of years. So they talked out of both sides. There was a business thing going on here between Meta and Apple on why it wasn't out there. So that is now happening. So rejoice, for you Instagram people, with your Apple iPads. Hey, when we come back here at McCollum on Business, let's talk some sports. NFL gets underway tonight. We got a lot of information on money, how much money flows to the NFL. All of that, plus local stories that you need to know as well. So come on back. It's McCollum on Business. And we're back here at McCollum on Business Thursday edition. You just saw an ad right there for the pit stop. Well, here at Robat TV, that will be posted here in about an hour and a half, 2 hours or so. Here on demand for this week, of course, week 2 of the playoffs for the Truck Series and the Cup Series coming our way as week 1 is in the books last weekend. Last race here for the regular season on the Xfinity series of things. I'll get you updated on all that if you're a racing aficionado. Of course, IndyCar wrapping up their season last weekend. Come and join me, would you? It'll be on demand here about 2 o'clock here today. And don't forget also all of my shows now, right? The main event, this show, the pit stop. Well, obviously, main event and pit stop have free podcasts out there for you. But also all up on our YouTube page as well here. And search at TME Sports Show. It'll come right up. Follow the pit stop at TME Sports. I'm sorry, at the Pit Stop Talk. Linked on there, the YouTube page. I'm going to do a pinned one on the main event as well for you to find the shows there on YouTube. And folks, just like and subscribe them for us. Get us out there. And of course, on demand here at Robat TV and also there. And of course, that's the pit stop. Main event for today is up. No Uncle Lou today. Normally on Thursdays, he's coming in tomorrow on Friday. So Uncle Lou comes in at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a football-heavy show, obviously. NFL kicks off tonight as well. We got some stories coming your way on that. And folks, it's going to be fun around here. Our new YouTube page, of course, for on-demand stuff. Of course, the free podcast system. Here at Robat TV, we're expanding the ways that you can find the shows here as well. I know Robat TV are overwhelmingly our biggest audiences as well, but I've had some people say that, whether they couldn't afford to subscribe, their wives wouldn't let them subscribe type of situations. Their husbands wouldn't let them subscribe. That actually is a case out there. We're putting it out there in other places for you as well. Please join us. Share us with your friends as well. We would certainly appreciate that as well. And keep watching us here at Robat TV. We do appreciate you guys joining us here live as well. So with all that being said, let's get back into that Market Watch. Well, just hitting the wire right now. Paramount's mandating a 5-day-a-week return to the office. Of course, they just merged there as well, so that's coming out for them. But everybody's looking forward to the jobs report, right? The non-farm payroll report that comes out tomorrow morning. That's what everybody's waiting for. It has been 2 days of weak, job reports, including today's ADP hiring data we talked about at the beginning of the show. and the market's just there today, right? 33 points up for the S&P 500. Dow Jones up 355 points right now. Nasdaq's up 130. The Russell 2K, that small cap index, up 17 points here today. And then Bitcoin down again. It's under that 110,000 level, 109,850 right now for Bitcoin as that continues to slide and hover down in this low 110 range. 112, which it was at a couple days ago, 110 yesterday, 109 today. What's going on with Bitcoin for you Bitcoin investors out there? That you'll have to inform me on your theories on that coming up. Stocks we're paying attention to right now. Well, the first one, American Eagle. We looked at the gap earlier, and yes, look at this. American Eagle, 34% up right now for this stock. This is an amazing, I'm going to say, turnaround here for American Eagle, right? They posted second quarter earnings of 45 cents per share. The revenue was $1.28 billion. Well, the expectation was only 21 cents per share, so blew that out of the water by 24 cents. The revenue expectation was only $1.24 billion, and they came at that 1.28. Their second quarter beat, well, a lot of it can be attributed to their advertising campaign. Obviously, the one with Sydney Sweeney out there. That's when this ad campaign was running. Now they've signed a deal with Travis Kelce's clothing company as well going into this quarter. So will that give them another bump with, of course, him being engaged to Taylor Swift now as well? So advertising works, folks, and they've gotten sales. They've gotten people perusing their stores. American Eagle Outfitters has, and they're up based off of their report from yesterday for the last quarter, 34%. Here today. And why companies went away from advertising like this, I have no idea, because it obviously works. It obviously works out there. Next up, we're going to look at a company called Figma. They're a design software maker. Not as good of a story today, right? 18.73% down right now for them. Well, they released quarterly results for the first time since they went public. They just went public recently. And they did break even on the bottom line. Their revenue was $249.6 million. That actually beat the estimated revenue level as well. But it wasn't high enough for investors out there, and so they are down 18.63% right now as their first report since going public here on the stock market. And not having terrible number. I mean, terrible because they broke even and barely beat the revenue number, but they hit their numbers. 18.80% down right now for Figma. Next up, two companies we got to look at. Toyota Motors, the first stock we're going to look at right now. It's up 2.40% right now. And the next one we're going to look at, I'll tell you about in just a second. But Reuters is reporting that the Japan and U.S. were nearing a deal with tariffs to lower auto tariffs out there. So a Japanese government source came out with this news, which means Toyota Motor Corp up 2.42% right now. And then the other one we're going to look at is Honda Motor as well. They also are up 1.76% right now for them, right? So the lower tax, the lower levy, I should say, than the current U.S. tariff, could be between 15% and 27.5%. It could take effect by the end of the month. Obviously, that means more profit for the companies if tariffs aren't as high, more sales if tariffs aren't as high on these. So both Toyota and Honda Motor up today based off of that news from a Japanese government source out there breaking that news there in terms of Japan and U.S. tariff negotiations. As that continue, they have the framework, but now they're negotiating all the details and that good stuff out there. Speaking of, big things happening around the world, well, tonight, Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. We covered that there at the main event earlier. If you want to talk the sports side of things, check out that, on YouTube, free podcast system where you get your favorite podcasts here on demand at Robat TV. Here we're going to talk more of the business side of things. And yesterday, the Giants, earlier this year, I should say, the Giants announced, New York Giants announced they were looking to sell a minority, non-controlling stake in their team. The NFL voted in the offseason to allow, companies and, venture capitalist companies to come in and buy up to 10% of their teams. And you have to be on a list, etc. Well, the Koch family is a big, very wealthy family back there in the East. Well, they've agreed to purchase a 10% stake of the New York Giants there in the NFL. So this is a deal. This is a big deal. 10% stake is what they're purchasing and buying in. The Giants' valuation with this deal is $10 billion for this team. Is a record number because the last record there was $6.05 billion. That's the one. That's the valuation of what was then the Washington. Well, now they're the Washington Commanders. With Josh Harris Group bought them from, of course, Daniel Snyder back in 2023. So 2 years, you go from $6.05 billion for the Washington Commanders to $10 billion valuation for the New York Giants. It's not that the Koch family bought the 10% valuation. It's the valuation number that is shocking out there. So pays nice to be an NFL team out there, right? Other football news out there, and I know a lot of you sports fans are up in arms about this. I do not watch it. I go to games, watch games regularly, but that NFL Red Zone, look, they got to make money too, I guess, is their stance, right? It's been every football fan's dream for a lot of years, right? Every Sunday, they go out there and they provide a look in during the most pivotal moments of every game, right? Right before you score a touchdown, they go to it. You see every touchdown in the NFL, every field goal. If there's a fumble, they switch to it as well. Interceptions. Anything that is a big play, right? I think they even do sacks, if I've heard correctly on that. Again, not something I actually watch, but they've always done it commercial free. You know, you always hear, right, Scott Hansen start the broadcast with the following words, quote, 7 hours of commercial free football starts now, unquote. Well, not anymore officially. Last year they snuck in some ads and didn't tell you about it. Well, they're telling you up front now, folks. Yeah. Hansen did confirm that the broadcast will feature commercials for the first time. I saw that they were going to overlay them. You're not going to miss any plays. They're going to kind of second box it on your screen, have the ads play while the plays are still happening. I get the uproar, especially since it's been commercial free. But look, so many of you enjoy this and everything. They want to capitalize on large ad revenue based off of this, and that's what is happening out there. No, I wanted to know, and I was trying to find what the estimation is for advertising dollars for the NFL Red Zone. I couldn't find anything written down about it. Maybe that'll come out. Disney, of course, is buying the NFL Red Zone, etc., and the NFL is buying 10% of it. That deal's got to close. It hasn't closed yet. It's probably a year out. Maybe that's when we'll get kind of the ad revenue numbers of the Red Zone when that happens at that time. Other sporting news out there around NBC, Universal, that company, right? Obviously the NBC network and USA, etc. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. Well, they said their upcoming NFL season marks the highest grossing to date when it comes to overall advertising and partnership revenue for that company, NBC Universal. It also said it's already sold out of ad spots for Super Bowl coming up in February, which is a shame. I was going to buy an ad. But if you're sold out, I guess I'll sit this one out. Live sports, specifically professional football, but live sports in general, they rake in the biggest audience, especially the biggest live audiences. And so, obviously, it also brings in the most ad dollars for traditional TV and those streaming platforms. Sports were once again a main component of media companies, what they call the upfront presentations to advertisers earlier this year. NBC Universal, well, they began touting its upcoming sports slate earlier this year. They did note that the NFL and Super Bowl are on NBC, obviously. The return of NBA on NBC this year coming up. And then the Olympics come up this year on NBC as well. So NBC is going to have a good ad revenue year with that live networking going on. Don't forget, they also own the Peacock network as well. NBC, Peacock there do air Sunday Night Football. They will both carry Super Bowl on it as well. This year marks the 20th season of Sunday Night Football on NBC. Also, 20 years. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. They also said they've sold out their Super Bowl inventory ads. Well, they've sold out 90% of its ad inventory for Sunday night football this year also for NBC. So big money going on between being an NFL owner and selling 10% of your team to the ad side of things as well, for especially for NBC out there with all their stuff coming up. And the Olympics are always a huge advertising boon for them as well. And let's go local here a little bit. And also on the sports side of thing, yesterday, before the Diamondbacks game, Governor Katie Hobbs visited Chase Field, where the Diamondbacks play, to celebrate legislation that will use state, county, and local tax dollars to upgrade, obviously, Chase Field, the home of the Diamondbacks. The team has yet to sign a new deal to stay at the stadium, which is now 30 years old. Their current lease does expire in 2027, so they have to work out those details. House Bill 2704 is what it was called. We talked about it a lot here on this program before it passed. Well, that allows some sales and income tax dollars collected at Chase Field specifically over the next 30 years, and it's going to go back to the team to be used to fund major repairs at the stadium. It does go into effect September 26th. That's one day after the Diamondbacks' last home game this season. So if you catch a game remaining this year, you don't have to pay those taxes. Well, those taxes don't go to them as of yet. The bill does allow $500 million in public dollars to be used towards renovations. And this is the part I don't understand. They say that the number could actually go up to over $1 billion because there's inflationary adjustments in this bill. How much inflationary adjustments are you expecting when it goes up $500 million based off of those adjustment levels? That's a lot. That's a big difference, folks, right? I even saw Derek Hall said, we hope it goes up to that $1 billion number. What? That means we're having huge inflationary periods. What are you talking about? Well, this money can be used for major renovations and repairs. Things like the air conditioning system being repaired or fixed, the roof finally being repaired or fixed as well. The legislation does not allow public funds to be used on luxury amenities. Things like adding suites, adding more luxury areas, field seats, etc. Nothing with the pool, for instance. Diamondbacks officials, they've long said they'll contribute $250 million to the project. The bill, though, doesn't include any language that actually requires the team to make good on that promise. And from what I was reading, there's some legal reasons why you can't put that in there. They claim they're going to put that money into it. We'll have to wait and see. Some of us, me, a little skeptical on how this is going to go with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I know yesterday he was on with the radio broadcast team. I heard him talking on that during the game, and he flat out said, well, we got to meet with people. We're looking at 4 to 5 years before we start doing stuff here and everything. Okay, buddy. It was pertinent this past. We got to move out of this building. It's so bad. It's going to take a few years before we touch anything. It's just constant politicking, and it drives me nuts with these sports teams, is what we deal with there. And then, shocker here, the Attorney General here in Arizona, Chris Mays. Stop me if you've heard this before. Well, she's among 24 attorneys general, putting their support behind that legal challenge filed by the largest union of federal workers in the United States. I'll give you 30 cents if you tell me if you know who they're suing. That's right. President Trump's administration. They do this all the time, right? An executive order that was signed by President Trump earlier this year, it strips collective bargaining rights from more than 1 million federal employees and at more than 24 agencies. Last month, union contracts were officially severed with several chapters of the American Federation of Government Employees. That's the AFGE if you're in that space. They're the largest union for federal workers throughout the United States. Union representatives said, and they use collective bargaining to vie for better conditions. The administration argues that process is a threat to national security, though law enforcement unions like the one for the Border Patrol, they weren't included in being taken out of the this deal here. And I don't know how Border Patrol wouldn't be a national security issue. So in an amicus brief filed last week, actually, end of last week. Mays and other attorney generals, they argue the move is an illegal attempt to punish labor unions for engaging in speech deemed hostile to the administration's agenda. So there you go. Chris Mays. Shocker, another lawsuit against the Trump administration. Regardless of how you feel about him, she sues him a lot with other people. It's a lot. Hey, last story here for you, right? We talked about Pima County kind of canceling that big blue box that they were going to build down there. NDAs were involved. A lot of secrecy around it, if you remember that story. Well, now Pima County, as we go down to Tucson, has actually adopted 2 new policies governing future economic development projects. And this is all because of the fallout from that Project Blue data center that, of course, was very contentious, the people of Tucson down there. Back in July, District 3 Supervisor Jen Allen asked county officials to draft new rules on non-disclosure agreements and environmental impact reports. She criticized that NDA that was used by Project Blue stakeholders to where nobody could talk about what it was going to be. This new NDA policy sets higher standards for non-disclosure agreements related to economic development specifically, and it also, most notably, their duration, scope, and who has the authority to sign those NDAs. So under this new policy, the maximum length of an NDA, 2 years. It was at 5 years before. The initial term is 6 months. The board is also required to approve the first extension of 185 days. And then again to extend the NDA, for 1 additional year. So no more just somebody blindly signing an NDA for 5 years and locking that deal up. Supervisors will also receive a confidential summary of all active NDAs every quarter. And this is after Supervisor Matt Hines said he was not properly informed he was under such an agreement in that case with Project Blue. The second policy that's been enacted down there in Pima County, well, it requires enhanced due diligence to measure a proposal's impacts on that air, water, climate in an economic impact report. One of the biggest criticisms of the Project Blue was its potential to draw natural resources down there. Remember, there was that one study that said they literally would dry out the river that runs right there with the amount of water that they would be using for that Project Blue. So Pima County once said they were going to make these changes. They've officially done so now down there. So makes it a little bit, that's fine. Do progress. Big buildings if your people want them. But the secrecy around that Project Blue was disturbing. And now they're looking to fix that there with that fallout there. Don't forget, today's Thursday. Powerball not picked up yesterday, folks. So they're expecting a $1.7 billion jackpot coming up on Saturday. So if you bought some yesterday, buy some more on Saturday. Just remember your favorite television host out there, folks. Hey, like our YouTube page, subscribe to it, catch us on the free podcast system. We'll see y'all tomorrow, folks, here, 11 o'clock. It's McCollum on Business.